I went and looked for the shirt and you can't even see it. I have to sit back here in order for you to even see the shirt. Anyway. Pro wrestling is annoyingly straight while simultaneously being the gayest thing you've ever seen. Sweaty, oiled up men in their underwear screaming in each other's face about a fake title, and women in tag teams where they can't keep their hands and eyes off of each other. In my opinion, the WWE is well overdue for a gay storyline. It's 2026 and the queer wrestling scene keeps growing both inside and outside of the ring. Wrestling is just drag for straight dudes, after all. While companies like TNA and AEW are progressive, I have yet to see a full-blown gay storyline. But with those companies, I can say that they are a little more open about their wrestlers' orientation.
I'm gay.
Now, I may be wrong, but let me know if there are any storylines that I may have just kind of overlooked in researching this video. But this video is mainly about the WWE and their lack of representation. So for this video, we will be focusing on WWE because they are the biggest company in sports entertainment in wrestling. Meanwhile, straight couples, kayfabe, or real life ones, there are so many storylines that revolve around their relationships. We have mixed tag team matches, weddings, and even celebrations that have been implemented into programming, and I understand the appeal. However, as a lesbian myself, I don't want to see Liv and Rhea fighting over Dom. I want to see Liv and Io fighting over Rhea in the winner's kiss. Like that would eat so bad. Anyway, and actually be a kayfabe couple, not just for shock value, but a serious storyline with a WrestleMania payoff. I love AJ Lee and CM Punk just as much as the next person, but I don't care to see them tag together. I kind of want to see AJ kiss Becky because she actively wants to. So why isn't this happening? The short answer is conservatism, but in this video, I want to do a deep dive into some of the history of gay wrestling and discuss a little bit about why WWE is so far behind the curve in representation compared to its competing companies. And for those of y'all who need my credentials, I have this, oh, my frame is broken. These are my credentials. This is me and Mercedes Monet, formerly known as Sasha Banks. I met her at MegaCon in like 2023, I think. This was like right after she left the WWE. So these are my credentials. So don't try to come for me trying to say I don't know what I'm talking about, because I absolutely do. Anyways, hello, my name is Keishay, aka Shay, aka Shake and Bake, and welcome back to my channel. Yeah, and without further ado, let's get into the video. Back in 2022, on an episode of Monday Night Raw, a double wedding or commitment ceremony was held featuring two straight couples. The two couples in question are Dana Brooks.
It's Brooke, not Brooks.
Brooke. She was coupled with Reggie, and Tamina and Akira Tozawa were coupled together. In wrestling wedding fashion, there was a commotion, and Tamina seemed like she was unsure who she wanted to marry. She switched partners with Dana and stood next to Reggie, and then she switched again and stood next to Dana as if she was actually going to marry Dana. The crowd and the other wrestlers attending this ceremony all reacted to this revelation, and for a second it looked like we were about to get two gay wrestling weddings. Then R-Truth, in all of his comedic glory, says this.
Y'all gonna get me fired. I don't even know if that's PG.
Girl.
So, like, it's not funny, but like, it did kind of make me laugh. I did like, what? But it did kind of make me laugh. Now, I get that this is one of R-Truth's catchphrases. He is there for comedic relief, but that still poses the question, why was it only not PG when it was gay? What's not PG about two people being in love? We all know the answer. Homophobia. And it should also be noted that if you go and look at this segment on the official WWE YouTube channel, that little part of the segment that I just described has been edited out because the backlash was swift about that comment. That just goes to show, no matter how much the WWE tries to act pro LGBTQIA+, they are not. I feel that the WWE is well aware that they have a bigger and more visible queer audience, and they do play into that. As I've said before, there has been a notable spike in queer representation in the wrestling space, period, spread across multiple promotions, professional indies, and the aforementioned two other competing companies, AEW and TNA/Impact Wrestling, respectively, have openly trans and queer wrestlers be showcased in major TV programming. The WWE, however, has had openly gay talent, but their gayness has never been put to the forefront in a programming standpoint, unless it was implemented in a salacious way for shock value or in an overtly exaggerated stereotypical way for comedic value. But before we get there, let's do a brief history lesson. Back in the early days of pro wrestling, i.e. the 1950s and 60s, there were plenty of male gay wrestlers who were out as they could be in the locker room and the locker room only. The only time a wrestler was allowed to show any type of gay traits was if it was a part of their gimmick. These flamboyant characters were usually heel characters or bad guys, respectively, and they would garner major heat from the crowds in attendance due to the rampant homophobia at the time. While researching this video, I found out that in Lucha Libre, these wrestlers are known as Exoticos, male wrestlers/luchadors who fight and perform while incorporating feminine aspects in their wrestling persona. According to, I'm gonna butcher this person's name, so I apologize in advance, but according to Krista Pagliay, she states, quote, "It's not uncommon for Exoticos to kiss their opponents as a form of attack, heavily playing into the machismo-focused Mexican culture's fears." End quote. American wrestling obviously noticed this trend and the negative attention that these bad guys would garner, because in wrestling, there's no such thing as a good or a bad reaction. You just want the crowd to react. And they noticed that there was a strong negative reaction to these more flamboyant male characters, and they cashed in on it. American wrestling got acts like Gorgeous George, who funnily enough got his gimmick from the man considered to be the first Exotico, an American who went by the wrestling name Dizzy Davis. For another example, we could jump to a more modern wrestler, one that I personally grew up with, Goldust. Yes, Dustin Rhodes, brother of Cody Rhodes, and son of the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. Goldust would come out with his face painted gold and black with a bodysuit to match and a platinum wig. He would say and do sexually suggestive things to get into his opponent's heads, and in the end be humiliated as the payoff. At one point, they also gave him a stutter, but this, I can't really even get into that because the ableism and the other shit in wrestling could be an entirely different series of videos. So I'll just stick to my gay stuff right now. However, Goldust is canonically straight. He has only ever been in an on-screen relationship with women like Terry Runnels, who was Dustin Rhodes' wife at the time. During Goldust's initial run, he was one of the most hated heels in the company. Why? Not necessarily because his character was bad, but because he was flamboyant and the crowd was extremely homophobic. So they would boo the shit out of Goldust, honestly. And the fact that wrestling has such a rampant homophobia problem is extremely ironic, because Vince McMahon is known for having a fascination with big muscular men. And it is well known that if you want to be a top guy in the WWE, you have to be freakishly huge. Like, you have to look like a comic book character. And this image was so bad that a lot of the wrestlers felt like they had to compensate. And there was a trial against Vince McMahon accusing him of pumping his wrestlers up with steroids back in the 90s. So to me, there's something inherently homosexual about that. Like, in order to be like the top guy in the company, basically Vince McMahon has to think that you're fine. That essentially, that is what it is. Sorry. As for trans representation, there is practically none to even speak of, unless you want to count Santina Morella, which I wouldn't even dare count that as trans representation because of how offensive it was. So I wouldn't even make that a thing. Lesbians, on the other hand, you might want to strap in for this one. No pun intended. Pause on that. Like every other sport, lesbians have been there from the start and largely either suppressed or left out of the conversation altogether. Sandy Parker, whom I've never even heard of until researching for this video, is known as the, let me just get this right, the first openly lesbian black wrestler, and I had never even heard of her. She is very much scrubbed out of the history books when it comes to the history of wrestling. She notably had to defend herself against the infamous Fabulous Moolah, who allegedly would also be known to have dalliances, so to speak, with her wrestlers that trained under her, but will force her wrestlers to suppress their sexualities. And in my opinion, she did this for her own personal gain, because Fabulous Moolah is infamous because she was accused over decades of pimping her girls out to prominent male figures in the wrestling world in order to get those girls jobs where she would then take considerable amounts of their money and a slew of other things. It wouldn't be until decades later where Daria Baronato, better known as Sonya Deville, would be known as the first openly lesbian wrestler signed to a major promotion. Now, this doesn't mean that the WWE hasn't had any lesbian adjacent programming. It's actually, sadly, quite the opposite. In wrestling, like any other male-dominated arena, which is pretty much everything, lesbianism is used for fan service. During the Attitude Era, there was an influx of female talent. This early stage for women in WWE would be known as the beginning of the Diva Era, which would last from the late 90s to the mid 2010s. And at this time, women will be put into mainly non-wrestling roles as like valets or managers. They would normally accompany a male act and basically stand at ringside to be cute and sexy. And sometimes, they got the opportunity to help their man get the win or whatever. To name a few women that came from that period, we have Chyna, Trish Stratus, Lita, Jazz, Jacqueline, Stacy Keibler, Torrie Wilson, the infamous Sable, Sunny. There are so many people that I can name. These women will be put into angles that would display them in a more sexually charged way. And if they did have any matches, they would be gimmick matches. So they would have pillow fights or swimsuit competitions, bra and panties matches, evening gown matches, oil wrestling, any wet t-shirt competition, insert whatever holiday food fight. Like, the list just goes on and on. These matches would be drenched in sapphic imagery, as I'm sure you are already imagining, but nothing overtly lesbian, so to speak. I wasn't there for the Attitude Era, but I would watch those videos on YouTube, and I'm sure it has a lot to do with who I am sitting in front of you today. Because it was like I was living for them, because I was like, it was a part of me that was like, oh my God, I could be one of those girls. And then I was like, they kind of bad though. Like, I don't even want to be them. Like, they kind of bad though. So let me let me chill, because I was being thirsty. I can't even lie. To be clear, this had nothing to do with the women's actual wrestling prowess. Most of them were already established names in the indie circuit and would get a few chances to show their skills as wrestlers, not just eye candy as we moved into the 2000s. For those of you who are not familiar with the early to late 2000s, this era in wrestling was called the Ruthless Aggression Era. This was an insane period for wrestling, for better or for worse. And if you know anything about this time in pop culture, you would know that it was a very weird time. Outside context, this is the time where the film industry was releasing those like raunchy teen sex comedies. Reality TV was dropping dating shows left and right. And One Night in Paris was circulating. Kim Kardashian's tapes was circulating. And with the change in media landscape, WWE's owner, Vince McMahon, cashed in on a more raunchy crowd. The Attitude Era was more edgy, but WWE became more see, I don't even want to call it that, but there was a lot of psycho stuff happening in that company's programming wise. It was very, very weird time. And honestly, nobody was safe. So I can't just say that it was just like weird gay storylines, but it was some weird straight ones too. But in this section of the video, I'm going to break down some of the key LGBTQ storylines so you can get an idea of what type of stories they were telling for gays at that time. Okay, the first thing we have is the tag team of Billy and Chuck. You look so good to me. Billy Gunn and Chuck Palumbo were put into a tag team with their eccentric personal stylist, Rico. As the storyline progressed, Billy and Chuck became increasingly affectionate towards each other and would be caught in like compromising positions by other wrestlers in the ring, etc. This blonde tip duo's story would conclude in a wedding ceremony after Billy accepted Chuck's life partnership proposal. And at the ceremony, the men would admit that this relationship was just a publicity stunt that went too far and would proclaim that they are both individually heterosexual.
This wasn't supposed to happen this way. It wasn't supposed to go this far, Rico.
This was all just supposed to be a publicity stunt. We're not gay. I mean, we got nothing against gay people.
After they made this proclamation, they were then attacked by the tag team 3-minute warning. Both wrestlers went back to compete as singles competitors, and this was never brought up again. So that's the first one, and I feel that that's kind of tame. When I was researching, I read that they reached out to like I don't even know what it's called. I think they reached out to like the Gay Straight Alliance, something like that. And they like got their help to get this even put on TV. So for it to be so offensive, people were not happy about that. Next, we have the queen of SmackDown, Torrie Wilson. Torrie Wilson was put in a lot of storylines, borderline creepy storylines. She was in a storyline where she had to date Vince and she was kissing Vince. But two of her storylines have a more sapphic tone. The first was a feud with Sable, and they were put in a feud because both of them had done Playboy covers before, so they were basically fighting over who had the best Playboy cover. This was during a time in the company where divas could get something that was known as the Playboy push, which is exactly what it sounds like. If you go pose for Playboy, then they will be more inclined to give you a nice boost in exposure. So more TV time, maybe a title shot, promotions from the company, etc., etc. This feud consisted of multiple segments in which Sable would antagonize Torrie, and sometimes Sable would downright straight up ass Torrie, if we're being honest. Like, there was this one backstage segment where Torrie was taking a shower and Sable came back there to bother her. So Sable like took her towel and held it up and made Torrie walk towards her naked in order to get her towel back. In any other situation, that is Sable also kissed Torrie in the ring, and you can see like Torrie's like visibly uncomfortable. I do think that she knew that Sable would kiss her, but she was obviously uncomfortable for the sake of the story, so it just gave like, no consent. They had a few matches and a couple more segments as well. In a very famous segment, I will say, Sable announced Sable's Invitational, which was a swimsuit competition that involved two other divas of that era, Nydia and Dawn Marie. Keep Dawn Marie in mind for later, because Lord, we will be coming back. Sable claimed that Torrie did not want to do the swimsuit competition because she felt fat.
Girl.
Obviously, I'm going to take it back to my The Quiet video. This is obviously early 2000s fat, because this is Torrie at the time. This is what Torrie looked like. Anyways, Torrie made a surprise appearance and entered herself into the competition. After Dawn and Nydia did their thing, it was Torrie's turn, and y'all, I can't even lie, this was iconic. Like, Torrie was eating. Torrie reveals her swimsuit and dances on Sable.
The proverbial lollipop inserted. Just look at this.
I need to calm down. It's getting a little hot in here. And then she takes the lollipop out of her mouth and gives it to Sable. And when I tell you I lived, I was like, oh, period. Torrie was really doing her shit. Like, Torrie was really running SmackDown. She was always on SmackDown. And her and Sable's feud, they ate. And you can't tell me, look at Sable. Child, that was a mess.
You some freaky ass nigga.
They had another swimsuit competition where Torrie won that swimsuit competition, and that was kind of like the end of the feud, I want to say, and they shared a no hard feelings consensual kiss on the lips after that. And that was the end of Sable and Torrie Wilson. No, actually, I was wrong. I think that the feud ended in July of 2004 in a fatal 4-way match, but yeah, I'm not sure. I couldn't find any like proper things. I don't have any of the WWE DVDs to confirm, so I'm just kind of going off of what Google is saying right now. So yeah, the other storyline that Torrie Wilson was involved in was with Dawn Marie. This is actually considered one of the like craziest storylines, I feel, in my opinion, and it has Vince McMahon written all over it. Like, this is Vince McMahon at his finest, so buckle up for this, because this is a mess. It's very soap opera-y and melodramatic. To set the scene, Dawn and Torrie had a feud before. I think that it was put on pause because of the stuff with Sable, but it started back up when there were a couple of segments where Dawn was flirting with Torrie's kayfabe and real life father, Al Wilson. In this storyline, it was alluded to that Dawn didn't even really like Torrie's father. She was only dating Torrie's father to get a reaction out of Torrie, and it did begin to work. Torrie was not happy that Dawn was dating her father. Dawn will go on to get kayfabe engaged to Al Wilson, and obviously Torrie was not happy about this. So Dawn decided that she was going to tell Torrie, hey, I will call off this wedding if you spend one night with me in a hotel. Now, what the That's obviously already problematic. I will get into the problems with this story, but let me finish the story because that's already problematic. Torrie debates whether or not she wants to go. She obviously winds up going, and you can see where this story is going. When Torrie meets her in the hotel room, Dawn has it all laid out, and she basically coerces Torrie into making out with her, and it is implied that they slept together. I think that Torrie confirms that she in fact did not sleep with Dawn. But they definitely showed the make out on WWE television. I think it was at a pay-per-view, if I'm not mistaken, Armageddon. I want to say it was at Armageddon where they actually showed the footage of the girls kissing, which was crazy. Obviously, Dawn did not call off the wedding, and she wound up marrying Torrie's dad, and they went on a honeymoon where Torrie's dad in the story dies because he overexerted himself from having too much with Dory. Damn. He basically overexerts himself from having too much with Dawn on their honeymoon and dies. And this would lead to an iconic funeral segment when Torrie and Dawn was slapping the shit out of each other. And it was hilarious. Like, Dawn really slapped the shit out of her. Torrie damn near like smacked her on the side of her head. She low-key missed the face. She hit her on the side of the head. Dawn fell into the casket. The casket falls on the floor, and Torrie's like, I hate you. And then Dawn goes and grabs this lamp and crashes that over Torrie's back. And that is wrestling, y'all. Like, it's obviously so problematic, but I love wrestling so much because it's so all over the place. It is so camp and just weird. Like, and the way that y'all settle it is with a match. Like, you gotta kill that. No shade. This feud ended when Torrie and Dawn had a match at the Royal Rumble, and the match was called the stepmother versus stepdaughter match. Obviously, Torrie won the match, but so I did save the best for last. This is probably like one of my favorite storylines, I would say, as well, even though it still has its problematic elements. The feud with Trish Stratus and Mickie James. This psycho storyline is basically the WWE's version of single white female. This honestly could be a full video on its own because it was a well thought out and well executed story that spanned over 8 months, which was unheard of for women in the company at the time. So kudos to them. And it was one of the first women's storylines that the fans genuinely showed interest in, and for good reason. Trish and Mickie killed it. Also, this is one of the only like problematic storylines that the WWE chooses to acknowledge, often highlighting it in their greatest feuds catalog. So yeah, they actually acknowledge this one. I just have to say that first to set the scene. So let's get into the story. At this time, Trish Stratus was practically running the women's division. She established herself as a certified diva veteran. Mickie James was a newcomer, and she had made her debut on an episode of Monday Night Raw when she ran out to come and save Trish Stratus from being attacked by another, in my opinion, underrated diva veteran, Victoria.
I'm Mickie James. I'm Raw's newest diva.
Mickie tells Trish that she is her biggest fan and she's always looked up to her and she wants to be just like her. And like any other person, Trish Stratus finds this extremely endearing. Even though she's a little overzealous, she still finds it extremely endearing, and she kind of takes Mickie under her wing. They start tagging together. Mickie would accompany Trish to the ring during her matches and sometimes even aid Trish in getting the win. At Survivor Series, she eliminated herself and Victoria from the Battle Royale so that Trish could retain her women's championship. As the story progressed, Mickie's behavior went from endearing to obsessive. The first kind of example of this was for Halloween, Mickie dressed up as Trish in a costume competition. And that was funny as like the first time I ever saw that, I was cracking the up. Like, girl, you are insane. Later on, Mickie started to like use some of Trish's moves. And then on a Christmas episode of Raw, Mickie kissed Trish under the mistletoe. And Trish was not going for that. She was like, hello, excuse me. Trish was still champion, but Mickie James wound up securing her a #1 contender spot for the women's championship. They fought at the New Year's Revolution pay-per-view, but Trish would come out on top, retaining her title. After this, Trish had to let Mickie know that she was not comfortable with the advances that Mickie was making towards her, and this would lead to Mickie getting offended and turning on Trish, attacking her. After that first attack, Mickie just kept getting crazier. Mickie she had like a little shrine and she would do all of these crazy promos. She would fight Trish and like steal her moves even more. Like she started stealing her finisher. And she would also attack Trish's friends, which one of her friends was the late Ashley Massaro. Rest in peace. Oh yeah, also rest in peace, Torrie's dad. He died in real life like a couple years ago. So rest in peace to him. This feud would carry the ladies into a championship match at WrestleMania 22. This was such a good match for numerous reasons. First, both of these women are just amazing performers. Storytelling and wrestling wise, they just blew it out the water. Also, these women were able to capture the attention of the mid 2000s WWE male audience at a time when they were calling women's matches bathroom breaks. Like there was no respect for the ladies who were doing the same schedule as the guys, who were training as hard as the guys, even harder. There was just no respect. And these women managed to make these men respect them and actually pay attention to what they're doing.
Mickie James is a psycho.
Even though there was like this whole lesbian aspect and it's very fetishizey, but a win is a win nonetheless. With the background established, I have to note that Mickie James went into this match as a heel. She went in as a bad guy and Trish came in as the champ, the good guy, the person that everybody's supposed to be rooting for. And in the middle of the match, the fans completely turned on Trish because they loved Mickie's character so much.
Mickie James counter Trish Stratus.
So that was like a really cool moment. And this match is also infamous for a certain gesture that Miss Mickie James did during the match. There's a spot in the match where Mickie grabs Trish by the crotch. After she grabs her crotch, she does a very suggestive gesture. You can kind of guess what she's mimicking. And I'm sorry, but I gagged for this. Like, that shit is fucking hilarious. And I'm mad that she got so much flack from Vince in the back. Like she always talks about how she got so much flack for doing that, but the fans love it and people always bring it up because girl, that was so like, I gagged. Like actually, yeah, you know what? Hell yeah. It's very ironic for Vince to be that mad knowing the shit that Vince was doing, writing himself into doing on TV and that he was doing off of TV that we have now seen come to light. He had some nerve. Anyways, Mickie went on to beat Trish in this match and she did win the title. She walked out of WrestleMania. She got her WrestleMania moment, as she should. But after this, the dynamic would kind of change and Trish would become the person who was taunting Mickie, dressing up like her and basically baiting Mickie into giving her another title shot. They faced each other in a match and Trish got injured in that match. So she didn't win the title, but she won the match because of disqualification. She went away for injury and then she returned and challenged Mickie again to another match, and she did go on to lose that match for a second time, ending the feud. This was such a good theatrical dramatic feud that really like shot Mickie into being one of my favorite wrestlers. She's still one of my favorite wrestlers to this day. Mickie is also still doing the Lord's work, doing very gay things at other promotions. So we love Mickie James. Shout out to her. And it was later revealed that Mickie was the one who pitched this idea to creative. That's probably why it was so good. But it was supposed to be Lita that she was obsessed with. And I think Lita got injured, so they went along with Trish. But either way, I feel like the story would have been great. But Trish really is like a whole different type of like person. And over the years, these women have had a few moments and matches here and there, but it was nothing like the original story that was told. Those are the storylines, the prominent storylines of that era. There was, I forgot to mention that there was also like this throwaway tag team. I think you only seen them one time. That was literally called the Lesbians. What did they do? They were lesbians and that was it. So That's why I didn't make an entire section for it, because it was literally like they came out as the lesbians and then were never seen again. So there you go. Now, before I move on to the final section of my video, I want to speak to a reoccurring theme in a lot of these stories. And that theme is the lack of consent. This isn't just a problem with the queer angles. I get that wrestling is full of theatrics. I've been watching wrestling since I was 6 years old, and everything is cranked to 1,000,000 to really just sell what's going on because it's so otherworldly. But the number of times that people are practically forcing themselves onto somebody else is alarming, and it definitely is a clear pattern in that being a trope, if you even want to call it that, in the storytelling. This trope is especially harmful when portraying LGBTQ people, because there's already a stigma on queer people about us being predatory and deviant, so it's not a good look. Also, another thing, harassment and assault does not have to be used as a plot device. Yeah, sometimes I feel like it's just kind of cheap to get a reaction. So thankfully, this trope, if we even want to call it that, has mainly disappeared over the years, and I am very, very grateful for that. Lord. So with all of that being said, that brings us to present day WWE. The WWE has tried to become more progressive as wrestlers began to be more outspoken about the causes that speak to them. The WWE was also more open to signing openly queer talent. Darren Young wasn't out when he came into the WWE, but he came out later, and he is known to be the first male gay wrestler signed to WWE. As of 2026, WWE still has yet to put on a full queer storyline. They have even fired a lot of their queer talent. There are, articles that kind of detail that as well, and it is very incriminating. Hello. However, remember at the beginning of the video when I said that the WWE is aware that they have a bigger queer audience, and they allow certain stars to play into that, play into a more queer coded role. That brings me to the reason that I even decided to make this video. Guys, we have to talk about Rhea Ripley. You see the material, and WWE knows that you see it too. For the unacquainted, Rhea Ripley is Triple K's,
What you said? Queen.
Triple H's golden girl, and the WWE's gateway into spoon feeding the gays content. And to be honest, we eat that shit up every time. It's so easy to bait gays. Because we're so starved for representation. So we literally just take any little thing that you give us. So that's not necessarily their fault or ours, so to speak. This Australian-born wrestler is one of the top in the women's division and in the company as a whole. Like, she's just a huge star. Even when she's not in the championship picture, she is always involved in programming somehow. She is tall, she is powerful, she is muscular, she's gorgeous, she's extremely talented. But most important to this conversation, she sports a more androgynous look. She adorns herself in all black, and she has a more pale face with dark makeup, and she's covered in tattoos. She has more of an alternative look, so to speak. And because of this, Rhea has a huge lesbian fan base. And don't get me wrong, straight men, women, and queer folk alike love Rhea, and that's why she's so popular within the company. But no, like, lesbians go up for Rhea, like they go crazy for her. And she knows this. You don't understand how many women would die if it meant that they could get pinned by Rhea Ripley. The character of Rhea Ripley is portrayed as a domineering woman who likes to be called mommy. Hello. Wrestling is so unserious. More recently, she has been a staple in the tag team division. This is where you start to see Rhea in a more, dare I say, lesbian light. So the first example of this is when she was put into a tag team with Liv Morgan, and they formed the tag team Liv for Brutality. We're going back to 2022. Okay. Rhea was placed in a tag team with Liv Morgan, as I stated before. Both of these women were building momentum with the fans, and the WWE didn't really know what to do with them at that point. They were out of the title picture. So they put them in a tag team and just threw them into the tag team division. That is WWE's go-to when they don't know what to do with wrestlers as individuals. They just throw them in a tag team and be like, yeah, figure it out. The look and dynamic of this tag team quickly caught the eyes of the Twitter gays. Trust me, I was there. I was on Twitter at the time, and child, we were living for Brutality. No shade. Rhea, being noticeably bigger than Liv, would take on this more protective, reserved, tough guy role, while Liv was the more smaller and more bubbly, outgoing one. They both also kind of have the same look makeup wise, so it worked out at least like in an aesthetic way. It was very aesthetically similar. From their entrance to their winning celebrations and flirty interviews, it was very much given that they were gay for each other. And to be frank, they looked more like a couple than a tag team. WWE took notice of the fans' reaction to this, even though they try to act like they don't care what the fans think. And they keep playing in our faces because now they have her doing stuff with Kathy Kelly where she's like calling Kathy her girlfriend. And now the stuff with the tag team Rio, which is Rhea and Io Sky, they basically had like this forbidden love story that was going on for weeks. And now they're in a tag team. And recently over Valentine's Day, Rhea just gave Io flowers in the ring. So why don't y'all just make them a couple in kayfabe? We all know scripted. Y'all go out of y'all way to show us that y'all are writing this. And also, Rhea is aware of the reaction to her. She has addressed on multiple occasions that she loves the fans' reaction. She loves that the gays love her, and she's addressed this on multiple occasions that she's aware of the response to her character and her character's behavior with the other women on the roster. In an interview with DS Shin, who is the creator of the YouTube channel Ring the Bell, which is how I got back into watching wrestling, not gonna lie, I started watching their channel. This was the time when Rhea was in a storyline with Dom.
What is going on with Samantha?
Samantha knows that I love her, and so does Kathy. I have some little girlfriends, but Dom's fine with that.
Maybe this was Rhea subtly alluding to the fact that her character may be bisexual, or maybe even poly too. I don't know, but that's how I took it. But why not just say that? And this is not an attack on Rhea Ripley. Like, this is not an attack on her. I genuinely love her. I think that she's amazing. I also think that because she's aware that she has this gay audience, it's kind of like Finn Balor. She is aware that she has this like queer audience, and she's doing the best she can to provide that kind of representation within the confines of what the WWE is willing to allow her to do. So I will give her credit for that. I commend her for that. And we all know, because kayfabe is damn near abolished at this point, we all know that Rhea Ripley is disappointingly straight. She is married to another wrestler by the name of Buddy Matthews. But still, it's like, since we already know all of this, what is the harm in putting this into a storyline? I truly don't get it. Why make her do gay stuff if she can't truly be gay? And this is a rhetorical question. Obviously, I want a real answer, but it's rhetorical because we all know the answer, especially if you are a wrestling fan or just paying attention to this political climate in general. You know the answer. Trigger warning. The answer is Donald Trump and Saudi Arabia. This brings me into why I have fallen off of watching wrestling. I think the last time I watched a live taping of wrestling was John Cena's last match. Because I wasn't watching it live before then. I'm not tuning into that shit. But for those of you who aren't aware of this, Triple H is a council member in Trump's fitness initiative. Sure. And Vince McMahon's wife, Linda McMahon, is the United States Secretary of Education. So they are actively a part of Trump's cabinet at this current moment, in this current climate. Disgusting. The McMahon family has had close ties to Donald Trump since before he was president, but now they are directly involved with the harmful and policies that this is doing. I do not that. I don't like that. It makes it hard for me to actually enjoy the content because you know that it's bad. It's actively bad. That's the first reason why the WWE won't see a gay storyline in the WWE, because their ties to this overtly just fascist party. The second thing is the Saudi Arabia deal. The WWE has a multi-million-dollar deal with Saudi Arabia to basically help Saudi with its PR, because they do not have the greatest reputation. I mean, with all of the human rights violations, the government corruption, and terrible treatment of women, they need all of the good PR they can get. And the WWE has jumped at the opportunity to provide them with that. Mind you, when they had the first, called, like, super show, I don't even know, Crown Jewel, when they had the first like event in Saudi Arabia, the women weren't even allowed to be on the card. That's how discriminatory Saudi Arabia is towards women. So imagine how it would be if there was a queer relationship portrayed on Saudi TV. And now the women are allowed to wrestle on the shows, but they have to be covered from the neck down for their safety. Genuinely for their safety. Basically, I can't have my toxic Yuri because Donald Trump and the Saudi overlords are not going to allow it. I'm irritated. And, oh, I almost forgot, bro.
Damn, I forgot.
When I was first writing the script, I forgot to put this in here, but Charlotte and Alexa are kind of doing the same thing. They basically have the same dynamic. It's like Charlotte is the bigger one who's more protective, and she, you know, takes care of Alexa, who's the little small one, and she's always fixing Alexa's hair, and they're hugging, and they love each other. But they can't be gay, though. They can't be gay. We can't get a gay kiss, but you can have Liv making out with Dominic Mysterio every week. I don't want to see that. No shade, like, you know, Dominic cute or whatever, but I don't want to see that.
I don't give a
Give me my Liv for Brutality kiss. I don't give a fuck. I want to see black lipstick all over Liv's face. That's what I want to see. Give me that. I can't even have it because y'all scared of gay people. I'm irritated. Like, don't piss me off. And if you want to be one of them people in my comments that's like, oh, why y'all got to make everything gay? Maybe they are just really good friends. Why are y'all shoving that down everybody's throat? First of all, I would say to you, shut the up. And then I would ask you the question, why not? Why don't we have a couple in a storyline, a gay couple in a storyline that can get the same amount of airtime that Maurice and The Miz get? Or Seth and Becky? Or why can't they have a show like Bianca and Montez? Why can't they have a Don't Mess With My Man story like Naomi and Jimmy? Like, I can go on and on. There's hella couples that they give airtime to that's straight, and they kiss and they do a whole bunch of even if they give us the story, don't make it something that's predatory or some unrequited love. Give me a true love story with a beautiful payoff. And then, just like any other wrestling couple, get them the most dramatic breakup ever. And give me some, you know, scorned ex situations. Because that's low-key how Liv is acting right now. With Rhea, she's acting kind of like a, you know where home is. That's kind of how she's acting at this moment. Like, what are we... Anyways... WWE Unreal has let the wrestling world know what kind of voices the company wants to make these decisions. And it's the voices of a bunch of old white guys. LGBTQIA plus people are only not allowed to exist in wrestling because a bunch of old white dudes say that they can't. And I say all of that to say, when did the WWE become so... They have never been scared before to do some freaky storylines, even during the PG era. Like, at one point in the company, they had AJ Lee making out with every on the roster. She had a full roster of on her own. But I'm sure you can't answer that. Like, you can't give me nothing that's gonna be logical. You can't give me nothing that's gonna take the homophobia and the prejudice out. You can't give me a logical answer. Sadly, I don't think that we will ever get a gay storyline out of the WWE, but I hope that other companies can finally, you know, grow some balls and truly give the gays what they're asking for. It's really not that hard. Our stories, you know, they deserve to be represented just like everybody else. And the United States is slowly, well, actually, the United States is barreling back into a more conservative ideology or a conservative time. And I do feel that it is a crucial time for queer stories to be amplified. I don't think that the WWE is bold enough to give us that representation. I was hoping to have a more hopeful outlook on this, but I don't think that I will see it in my lifetime. I didn't think that I would see the women's division at what it is in my lifetime. But, you know, we take progress as we can. And I'll just, you know, stick to my little TikTok edits and being delusional. Just being delusional, hoping that one day it will happen. Okay, that is it for this video. Thank you guys for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. It is greatly appreciated. If you are one of my friends and family watching my channel, I love you. Please let me know if you want more wrestling content. I love wrestling. I will talk about wrestling all day, and it's literally one of my favorite things. Like I said, I've been watching wrestling since I was 6 years old, so I love this type of shit. Anyways, again, thank you for watching. I hope to see you in the next one. Goodbye.